So, if you are a lawful permanent resident or a U.S. citizen filing for your spouse, okay, so in this case, you will need to file the form I-130 with an additional form. So, this new additional form that I'm talking about, it's for a new edition. So, we have a new edition for the I-130, okay? So, they say starting April 28th, starting April 28, 2017, USCIS will only accept this new edition. I'm talking about the edition February 27, 2017. In this, when using this new edition to file the form I-130 for your spouse, you must submit the form I-130A. They call it supplemental information for spouse beneficiary. Okay? So after April 28, okay, after April 28, 2017, the submission of the form, you remember the whole form, the form G325A. So this form, the form G, let me give an example for you. The form, the whole form, the form, excuse me. So I say after April 28, okay, the submission of the form G325A. In the past, we used to submit one for the petitioner and one for the spouse. It was like two forms, okay? So this form, these will no longer be accepted, okay? No longer be accepted. So forget about it. They no longer accepted after April. You cannot use the form G325A, okay? Again, starting April 28, 2017, do not submit the form G225A when filing for your spouse. You will just need to file just one form, the form I-130A, supplemental information for your spouse, okay? So, and this form will be submitted only for the beneficiary spouse. The petitioner don't need to fill a form I-130A. So that saves you time. You don't. So only the beneficiary spouse. That means the spouse, not the U.S. citizen. So the U.S. citizen as well as the permanent resident don't need to file a form I-130A. It's only the beneficiary spouse. Okay. So if you are either a U.S. citizen or permanent resident filing for your spouse, that means your husband or your wife, will need to complete and sign the form I-130A. Okay? So if your spouse is overseas, we know most of the time, your spouse, the one that you're filing for, is not in USA. So what you do in this case, you just file a form I-130 for him or for her. But don't sign it, please. Don't sign it because they know your spouse is overseas, so your spouse cannot sign this form. But you still need to fill out the form I-130 on behalf of your spouse. But we have some case I say, where the person is LOD in USA. In this case, the spouse. If your spouse in USA, okay, your spouse will fill out this form and sign it. That's the way it should go, okay? So now I'm gonna show you step by step how to fill out the form I-130A. So this is gonna be about the beneficiary spouse only, okay? Let's do it. Okay, guys, this is the form I-130A, okay? So this is supplemental information for your spouse beneficiaries. So if you lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen is filing for your spouse, that means if you're filing for your husband or your wife and you are a lawful permanent resident or a U.S. citizen, it's an obligation to fill out this form. This information is about the spouse beneficiary. This is not about the U.S. citizen or the permanent resident. So you're going to provide information for the spouse beneficiary. So you will attach this form I-130A with the form I-130. Okay? So you will attach this form. This is an additional form, okay, that you will need to file. So let's start fill out this form. So understand, even though if your spouse is not, we know most of the time your spouse is not in USA, it's overseas. So you're still gonna fill out this form, but you don't need to sign it. If your spouse is, most of the time I know the spouse gonna be in another country, you don't need to sign it. But sometimes there is some situation where your spouse is within USA. So in this case, this spouse will sign this form. Okay. So alien number. Most of the time this is gonna be blank, because we know most of the time your spouse is not in USA. Your spouse is overseas, and as a matter of fact, don't have any alien number, either a USCIS account. But sometimes your spouse may still within USA. If it's the case, you will put the alien number if your spouse got any alien number. Okay, so here you will provide the last name of your spouse. This is just an example. That first name of your spouse. If you got the middle name, you put it. So let me show you though. We start this form from here. So let me remember you. Don't touch here at the top. That's not for you. This is for if you have an attorney, okay? Don't touch it. You start here. Okay? So now we're still in part 1. Full name of your spouse. Okay, let's go to address history. Address history. Still about your spouse, which is overseas. Okay, address history. What they are looking for? They are looking for your address for the last 5 years. So if for the last 5 years you didn't change address, you stayed in one address, just put one address, that's it. Okay? So let's say we are in 2017. So let's say 2017 minus 5, 2012. Let's say if you've been living in a specific address since 2012, you're just gonna put this address. So you will start with the address that you are right now. Most of the time, I know it's gonna be an address overseas. Okay? If you're in USA, sometime you might be in USA, you will put it. But most of the time, it's gonna be an overseas. Let me put just an example for my country. I'm just gonna put an example of address for my country. Okay, an address overseas. That's just an address. Okay, city is gonna be Port-au-Prince. I put the city. State, we don't have that in Haiti. We don't have postal. We have country Haiti. Okay. Okay, that's the address of your spouse, which is overseas. Okay. So let's say if my spouse, that's mean Etienne Kathleen, we are in 2017. Since 2012, it's been in this address. I don't need to put additional address. Okay. So if there was, let's say, if she's been living in this address since, let's say, 2013, so I will need to provide additional, because 2013, 2017 give you only 4 years. So I will need to add additional address here. Okay. So, but understand when they're talking about address, you start with your current address. So that should be the current address right now while we're talking, the current address. And then I will say here, date form. Let me put that, just an example, since let's say since February 2012. Okay, so I can put exactly today. So you will put to today. That's why you can't, they don't let you correct this, because they know it's today, because that's your current address. So I'm in 2017. That give me 5 years. I don't need to put any more physical address. Okay, if I have put like some 2011 or whatever 2010, I will need to put my address between 2010 to 2012, I will need to put another address because they only need your address for the last 5 years, and you start with your current address, which means this address that I write down, that's my spouse current address. Okay, I start with the current address. Okay, so they know for 5 years maybe you've been living in like 3 different address. You will put, if it is the case, you will divide it. You will divide each date. Okay, that's the way. That's why they give you the possibility to address 1, address 2, stuff like that. If you need additional space, you can put other address. This is the case for people that have been moving address, but we know some people just stick to one address for a long period. Okay, if it is the case, just put one address. Otherwise, you will need to provide it for 5 years. Okay, now this is physical address. We are done. Okay, now let's go to information about parent. Which parent they are talking about? They're not talking about the parent for the U.S. citizen or permanent resident. Parent for your spouse, which is most of the time overseas. Okay, parent, that's easy. So parent 1, parent 2. So they're talking about a mother and father. That's the way. Okay, so you will put the whatever name of parent 1. Let's put family name Etienne Wilner. That's father. You will put the name, you will put the birthday, whatever. This is an experience. Let's put 26 1956. Okay, that's gonna be the father, male. Country's village of birth. We save time. You understand that the city, that the country, which gonna be Haiti. Okay, city of residence. In this case, it is Port-au-Prince. They're talking about the father of your spouse. Country, Haiti. Okay, that's parent 1. So you're gonna have parent 2 here. That's gonna be for the mother. You're gonna check female. You will put last name, first name, the same thing that you did for your father. Okay, so country of residence. That's really easy and straightforward. Okay, let's go to okay, and information about your employment. Which employment they are talking about? Employment of your spouse. I know most of the time, which is overseas in another country. Sometimes your spouse might be in USA on a legal status sometimes. So here you're gonna put the employer name. That's mean if your wife, we're working. Otherwise, you will leave this blank. So let's say if your name of the employer, that can be. I'll just take an example. Quick crack. This is just an example. Quick crack Plaza company. Okay, that's company. I will put the address, the city. It's gonna be Port-au-Prince. For me, this is gonna be Haiti. Occupation, I will put cashier. Okay, date employed. The date employed, I will put she's been employed here. 02/11/20, whatever, 2011. Okay, this is employment for your spouse. Okay, employment history. Okay, so if your spouse don't have any employment, didn't work, just leave this blank. Employer 2, if your spouse is the second employer, it's really up to you if your spouse had 2 employees. So what they are looking for, employment history. Okay, let me show you employment history for the last 5 years. For the last 5 years. Okay, they have okay, this is employment history. So let's go to part 3. Information about your employment outside of the United States. Okay, provide your last occupation outside of United States if not shown above. If you never worked outside of the United States, provide this information in space here. So they understand sometimes your wife might be in USA. So in this case, you will provide employment of your wife while overseas. Okay, let's say if your wife is in USA, you will provide information of employment information for your wife when your wife was in his home country. Okay, but most of the time we know it's gonna be overseas. You see, provide last occupation outside of United States, if not shown above. In this case, it's already shown above. You see? Because this place is in Haiti. Okay? It's already shown above. So I don't need to provide it in this case. Let me read for you so that you understand. Provide your last occupation outside of United States if not shown above. Okay? So if not shown above. So I don't need to put anything because I already provide information outside of United States. We know some case where the person is in USA and never work. Okay, you will leave this blank in this case. Okay, there is different case if your spouse is within USA. Okay, now we are getting there, almost finished. Spouse beneficiary statement, contact information, certification, and signature. So I guess if you are here, you are trying to do it by yourself. So you will click I can read and understand English. Okay, you don't need any translator. You don't need any interpreter because you are here because you can do it by yourself. You don't need any preparer, so you let this blank. Spouse beneficiary contact information. We will provide phone number here, 509. Okay, 55. Okay, mobile phone number, that's easy. Okay, and then what else? Spouse certifications. So it's important to see. This is really important. You will need to sign this with a black pen. You will need to date it. Put the date here, and then you most of the time you let this blank because if you are here, you don't need an interpreter. You can understand English. So leave this blank for interpreter as well as for the preparer. So you didn't have any preparer. You just let this blank. Okay. You don't need information for the preparer certification. You don't because you didn't use any preparer. So this is the case when you need additional information. Let's say if you live with more than 3 address, you will add any additional information here. Okay, this last part is for additional information. Any additional information for any part, you will put it here. If you don't have additional information, leave this blank and you are good. Okay guys, you are good to go. So remember, this is information about the spouse beneficiary, not the petitioner. So they are not talking about the lawful permanent resident or the US citizen. They are talking about the beneficiary, which is most of the time is not in USA. Most of the time it is overseas. We know sometime your spouse might be in USA on a specific status, on parole or temporary on visa. We know some case where the spouse in USA. If your spouse is within USA, you are filing this form, your spouse need to sign. Okay, it's really important to sign. So let me tell you, but if your spouse is overseas, your spouse don't need to sign. Okay, the signature. Okay, your spouse don't need to sign. It's a note to all spouse. If you don't fill out this form or fail to submit required document listed in the instruction, you may deny. You need to fill out this form. Okay, but the spouse, if the spouse is overseas, your spouse don't need to sign. Okay, so let's go to other step. Okay.